This topic on patterns, cycles and beliefs is one that everyone can relate to, and given your extensive exploration into them and the nature of consciousness, can you go into more detail about how they work and where they come from?
Yes, of course. I'm sure you've noticed recurring patterns, experiences and reactions and then realized that you are the common link in them. Life unfolds in patterns and is based on the laws of science and energy. So take a look at your relationships, finances, health and your emotional state, and you'll spot both positive and negative patterns. Recognizing and letting go of the negative patterns changes your blueprint, removes old emotional triggers and creates a new future. Underlying belief systems are at the heart of recurring patterns and experiences. These beliefs are anchored in both your conscious and subconscious mind. Belief systems can be thought of as underlying convictions held true by individuals or groups about themselves, the world and others. So for example, if you were raised with the idea that success only comes through relentless effort, this belief can influence your work experiences. You might find yourself drawn to challenging tasks, experiencing longer work hours, or feeling that work cannot be both enjoyable and fruitful. So consider, as Dr. Phil suggests, that we are born as a blank canvas and our caregivers paint upon them with words, experiences, and attitudes. These brushstrokes form our beliefs, shaping our reality. Often operating below our awareness, these beliefs held within our consciousness manifest as recurring patterns. So check out the following common negative belief systems that play out in life patterns and experiences to see if you identify any of your own.
In your explanation, you delve into the holographic nature of human existence and how various patterns reflect broader themes in our lives. Because I have a pattern of overgiving and attracting needy people that I would really like to change. Can you provide insights into how recognizing and understanding these patterns can empower individuals to address their ingrained negative belief systems and achieve personal growth and transformation?
Sure, these ingrained, learned and subconscious negative patterns are often the hardest to break as they are created in childhood or come through from past lives, as our souls are eternal and on a journey of growing, expanding and living out our divine purpose. Some patterns can feel almost insurmountable as they reside in the blueprint of who you are until they're changed. The more you think about or experience a certain event, the stronger the neural pathways in the brain become. When an action is repeatedly performed, the brain starts forming neural pathways to make that action more efficient and automatic. Over time, these become habits and we carry out without conscious thought. It's why habits, both good and bad, can be challenging to break as they become the very essence of who we are. It's akin to someone asking you to abandon your identity or renounce your nationality. How can you when it's the only way you've ever known? Even if you momentarily adapt, daily routines and challenges soon pull you back to familiar habits, your default comfort zone. So, for example, individuals with feeling of unworthiness may feel uneasy around those who appreciate their worth, or those who constantly struggle financially may feel out of place among the affluent. In cultural and social conditioning, society and culture play a significant role in shaping our behaviours. We often adopt behaviours, beliefs and attitudes from our environment without conscious awareness. So, for instance, societal standards of beauty, success or morality can deeply influence individual choices and self-perceptions, often operating below the level of conscious thought. Over time, you'll see how you are the common denominator in your life patterns, and you will discover how to access the power to change them. You can let your negative emotions guide you like a compass, pointing you towards the areas of your life that need redirection or change to break free from the things that no longer serve you. Acknowledging that your family, cultural background, religion, and community have shaped your beliefs and perspectives is essential for change. By stepping outside your bubble and immersing yourself in seeing everything from the big picture point of view, you'll identify beliefs and patterns without judgment. The following are some common patterns people encounter.
That's so true, as I find myself slipping back to my old ways unless I make an ongoing concerted effort to change. So given the holographic nature of human existence, where every aspect of our being reflects the entirety of our existence, how do individuals effectively address and transform ingrained emotional patterns originating from childhood traumas to lead a more balanced and harmonious life?
Yes, sure. This topic takes a lot of reflection and conscious thinking to view things objectively. When you do, you see beliefs and patterns play out and recognize that everything has an order and science and law to it, so it returns the power back to you. The holographic model of existence suggests that every part of the universe contains the whole within it, much like how each part of a hologram contains the entire image. In the context of human existence, this idea suggests that every aspect of our being, physiological, psychological, and environmental, is a microcosm reflecting the macrocosm of our entire existence. It includes patterns within patterns. If everything is a holographic representation, then patterns repeat at various scales. Think of the intricate design of fractal, where each portion, no matter how small, mirrors the larger whole. Physiological indicators are when we examine the human body, we see recurring themes and patterns. For example, the heart rate variability can indicate our overall emotional and physiological health. Blood cells can reveal details about our nutrition, oxygen levels, and possible illnesses. This suggests that a small part of us, like a single cell, can reflect our broader health and well-being. Alternative health practices such as iridology, which is the study of the iris, provides insights into a person's systematic health and personality just as palm reading can. Similarly, biofeedback, which monitors physiological functions, can be a gateway to deciphering the information contained in the energy fields. And in ancient traditions like Chinese face reading, postulates that our faces are maps of our lives and health. Every line, blemish, and feature tells a story, mirroring our entire existence. The dynamics of our relationships can also reflect broader patterns in our lives. For instance, a recurring issue in multiple relationships might indicate deeper, unresolved childhood programming. The spaces we inhabit, be it our home, workplace, or even the natural environments we are drawn to, can reflect our internal states. A cluttered home might represent a cluttered mind, or being drawn to water might indicate a desire for depth and introspection. Some spiritual and physiological interpretations even suggest that our individual lives are a reflection of the cosmos, indicating that our personal experiences might be mirrored in the larger universal events. In conclusion, the holographic nature of human existence is a concept that proposes that everything is interconnected and interwoven. It suggests that by understanding one aspect of our existence, we can gain insights into the whole, emphasizing the profound interconnectedness and unity of all things. Life is your message or shows you your results. Your life's outcomes serve as a mirror reflecting your internal patterns, whether positive or negative. So simply put, if your life feels fulfilling, it indicates internal harmony and contentment. Conversely, if it feels out of balance, it signals you to introspect and adjust your inner beliefs and behaviours. Life provides feedback on what you radiate into the world. Reiterating what Dr. Candace Pert, a notable biologist and author who discovered that your thoughts convert into molecules, well, her research shows that emotions are not just chemicals in the brain, they are electrochemical signals influencing every cell's chemistry and electricities. Emotions modulate the body's electrical state and affect your internal and external world. For instance, thinking activates the hypothalamus, turning thoughts into millions of neuropeptides that represent the emotion linked to that thought. These neuropeptides then merge with cells, dictating the hypothalamus's production based on frequency. Over time, the body adjusts to these signals and behaves similarly to drug addiction, with cells requiring more specific neuropeptides. This can lead to a cycle where the body becomes addicted to particular emotional states, such as feeling victimized and repeating past experiences. This is why experiences in childhood perpetuate in adulthood. Emotional triggers in adulthood that originate in childhood are deeply embedded responses or reactions to certain stimuli that can be traced back to experiences, teachings, or events during one's formative years. So these triggers are often connected to unresolved feelings, traumas, or memories from childhood. When an adult encounters a situation, event, or even a statement that in some way mimics or recalls that unresolved emotion or trauma, it can prompt a disproportionate emotional response. So understanding this idea is crucial because it causes intense reactions to seemingly benign situations without realizing that these reactions are tied to past traumas or experiences, therefore fueling the energy for negative patterns to continue. Here is a list of examples of emotional triggers originating in childhood. Abandonment, someone who felt abandoned as a child because a parent left or was emotionally unavailable might become excessively anxious or clingy in adult relationships. A partner coming home late or forgetting to call might trigger intense feelings of abandonment even if the situation doesn't warrant such a strong reaction. Judgment. A child who was frequently judged or criticized can become extremely sensitive to opinions. As an adult, even a mild observation or casual comment can be perceived as severe judgment, prompting feelings of inadequacy or defensiveness. Being ignored or overlooked. A child who felt overshadowed by siblings or classmates can develop a heightened need for recognition in adulthood. If they feel overlooked or undervalued in a work setting, it might elicit strong feelings of resentment or anger. Verbal abuse. Individuals who were verbally abused or belittled during their childhood can become extremely sensitive to tone of voice or specific words. A comment that might seem neutral to others could be interpreted as hostile or mocking by someone with this kind of history. Control and autonomy. A child who is overly controlled or given little freedom to make decisions might either become fearful and submissive of controlling people or rebel against authority, becoming controlling in their relationships or seek the autonomy and power they were denied as a child. Physical safety. Someone who experienced physical abuse or threats to their safety in childhood can become hypervigilant as adults. Situations that remind them of that lack of safety, like a raised voice or sudden movement, can trigger intense fear or aggression. Patterns of victimhood. It can influence your worldview if you experienced victimization in your childhood or witnessed your parents consistently assuming the victim role. As a result, you can encounter situations in adulthood where you feel oppressed or unconsciously cultivate a victim mindset and attract unfair situations. Feeling undervalued. Childhood experiences of consistent disrespect can influence adult perceptions and interactions. Such experiences can lead to feelings of inadequacy and invisibility, where one's contributions feel unrecognized. This often results in attracting relationships that perpetuate this same pattern of being taken for granted. Worry and fear. Childhood experiences marked by fear or anxiety deeply impact adulthood. Growing up in a fear-filled environment or with overly protective parents can manifest ingrained fears in one's own reality. Dwelling on these fears implies a lack of trust in one's ability and the universe to protect them. Such a mindset can block positive events and increase the chances of negative outcomes. Anger and hate. Childhood encounters with anger or hate can profoundly impact one's adult life. Individuals with unresolved anger tend to be drawn to enablers who allow them to express their pent-up emotions. This suppressed anger can compromise one's health, relationships, and overall well-being, often magnetizing situations with individuals who resonate with that underlying pain and rage.
Considering Dr. Joe Dispenza's perspective on the power of thoughts in shaping one's destiny and discussion on the impact of ingrained beliefs and behavioural patterns, can you share an example of how we can sometimes unintentionally instill in children belief systems that block them from being accountable in adulthood?
Dr. Joe Dispenza's teachings highlight the importance of becoming aware of yourself as your thoughts shape your reality. Many people neglect to intentionally shape their reality simply because they doubt its possibility. He points out that if you truly understood that your thoughts pave the path to your destiny, you'd be vigilant, ensuring every thought aligns with your desired life. Every day you're bombarded by 60 to 70,000 thoughts. Shockingly, 90% of these thoughts are repetitive from the day prior. These recurring thoughts trigger familiar choices, leading to predictable behaviours and consistent experiences. These experiences generate familiar emotions, fueling the cycle of the same thoughts. Your biology, neural pathways, hormones, physiology, and genetic expression are intertwined with your thoughts, actions, and emotions. Your personality, a combination of thinking, acting, and feeling, shapes your personal reality. To reinvent your reality, you must consciously examine your thoughts and decide what needs to change. Many attempts to create a new reality while clinging to old personalities, an endeavour bound to fail. Persistently thinking and acting in set ways reinforces neural pathways. Neuroscience explains this. Nerve cells that fire together wire together. Your brain in its current state is a testament to your past experiences. Every daily routine, from the side of the bed you rise from to your daily commute, reinforces familiarity in your brain. How can you expect a new tomorrow if you repeatedly live identical days with stagnant thoughts, actions, and emotions? Continually immersing yourself in this same environment with familiar stimuli ensures your thoughts remain tethered to your past. If you genuinely believe in the power of thoughts over destiny, you'd realize that persisting in the familiar limits you to a predictable future. You must step out, challenge norms, and embrace unknown change. I once knew a man, let's call him Jimmy. He was one of 5 siblings. His mother believed she was shielding her children and showing them love, especially her sons, from the world's harm when she would protect them in times of conflict, and she would blame the other party when they would have difficulties. And this programmed them to feel self-righteous. They never would take accountability. Someone else was always to blame. As the brothers matured into adulthood, their inability to acknowledge their own faults impacted their relationships. Jimmy's relationship in particular was fraught with challenges. He had internalized the idea that he was always in the right, rendering him blind to his self-centered behaviours. This resistance to self-reflection and adaptation led to continuous strife in his personal relationships, as he just couldn't take any ownership of his issues. He was programmed to not see them. I'm going to run through a few examples of some patterns. Now, it takes an awareness to start seeing your patterns. We all run on patterns. We run on good patterns, negative patterns, neutral patterns. They occur all the time. Now, the forensic healing system identifies the negative patterns since we're there to change them. We want to keep the good, so we've got to see the negative patterns. And if you don't see them, how can you possibly change them? And then how can you possibly take accountability? It's when you say to yourself, oh, here I go again. I'm creating the same pattern again. So I'm just going to run through a few that I've encountered over time that I just remembered over the time of when I'm teaching or seeing clients. So one girl in particular, she said she would suffer financially. She had her own business and she would go in these peaks and troughs. She would get through a certain time and everything, all the money would be incoming, and then there would be this drop. Yet in her business, she would have associates that had lots of money and she was connected to them, but it never helped her. So when we go back to her childhood, her family were farmers. They had the harvest and then they had the winter time. And she said there were wealthy people that came to the property. It was exactly the same scenario. Or there are people that say, I'm always struggling just to get through to pay the bills. And again, if I go back to their childhood, there is that same pattern. Their parents are always struggling to pay the bills. I had a pattern that was really hidden, and it was to do with real estate. And because I don't buy and sell real estate that often, it is hard to see. Although I'm very good at real estate, my father was a real estate agent. But what happened, and it started to ramp up the older I got, what I started to see was extreme trauma and stress and strange things happening to me when I either did buy something or sell. It always went wrong, or it was just highly difficult and would put me in this intense state of I'm thinking I'm losing everything, when in reality I'm not really, but it was just very intense. And then what came to me, what I realized was that my father would come home from work, and after he would be selling real estate, and then he would beat me and abuse me. And so I didn't even know I had this connection that real estate was traumatic, and it was heightened when at a time of buying or selling. Now, there could be more details in that in childhood, but I don't remember because my childhood is quite vague. There was another client came to me and she said that she'd done a lot of courses and seen people, but nothing was changing. And I always say to someone, well, nothing is changing, so why would I be any different for me? So we have to go to the underlying belief of why it's not changing. And this girl, what I found was right behind all her problems and issues was a belief that you could never be happy. And that's what her mum would reinforce to her as a child, that nothing worked and just couldn't be happy. So, or it didn't work. I think I can't exactly remember the exact phrase, but it was very much that there was no happy ending. So as I'm working on her, I said, so in the back of your head, do you have a thought that this isn't going to work? And she said, yes. And so if you have that thought in the back of your head, unless that's changed, then nothing does work, just as her pattern proved her. And she was living with her mother at the time. She was her kind of caregiver. I don't think her mother was very well. So it was exacerbated by having to be around someone that's programmed you that nothing works. So I told that girl, I said, you need to 24/7, you need to eradicate that belief. Until you eradicate that belief, nothing that she does changes, because your beliefs are there to prove you correct. And they had proved her correct right up to the time that she saw me. I've got another story of another client, and she decided to get into the, I think, topless dancing, or she started to do something that was against what she knew morally right, although she sort of justified that it's okay because she made more money when she was doing these exotic dances and in that industry. And she said she didn't make enough as an office worker. And then we go back to her childhood, and there we find her father, who was some sort of carpenter, or I remember her saying he abused his body in what he would put himself through. It was very physically demanding, and I can't actually remember the exact profession, but I know she was going, he would come home and his body would be wrecked. You know, he would really kind of destroyed him. His work destroyed his body physically. And there was the parallel, that she was doing exactly the same thinking, or a belief that you have to destroy your body in the way of going against your morals by doing this, because she knew internally she didn't want to do it, but it was the same kind of parallel. It was something that wasn't good for the body. So I have a neighbor, and she endured abuse as a child. Unfortunately, her father trafficked her to the Masonic Lodge, where her memories came back later, and she could see the checkered floor. She remembers seeing kids in cages. Just sounded horrible, but so traumatic that it was all blocked from her memory until she got older, and she actually suffered from cancer. So inside of her was this abuse and horrible experiences. So they started to she started to have flashbacks, and she started to remember what happened to her, which made sense to her why she felt the way she felt. She did have some sort of therapy, but not real deep therapy. She sort of doesn't, when it all goes bad, she doesn't default to anything like meditating. She doesn't do anything like that. And she can be, when she's stressed, she starts to, get antsy, and she starts to go in shock, and then she starts to relive like high stress and high trauma. But this is ongoing for her. So she'll feel like she's always been attacked, whether it's the neighbor, whether it's the person living upstairs and making so much noise, and she's got a high sensitivity to noise, but it's always ongoing for as long as I've known her. If one thing gets fixed, another thing will occur. That is because there is a pattern of feeling attacked and feeling abused, and it sits inside her till it changes. So these ongoing patterns, the negative ones are the weakness. They are weak areas where we will get targeted and where we will go down first. So we need to strengthen our weaknesses, but to do that, you need to see them, and that takes self-awareness. So in the upcoming video titled Review, Reflect and Respond, you'll discover your negative life patterns, which are behind all your negative beliefs, and learn how to identify them, learn how to change them, learn how to overcome them, and completely transform yourself, setting a new blueprint which will set you free for your life, because these patterns, these beliefs are embedded, and they are in the blueprint, and they must be changed to change your life. So see you then.